Alright. Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back to Tomboy Official. This morning is a My Queer Dreams episode. I'm recording this after watching some soccer in the morning. And having, instead of tea, because I'm on PTO, I'm having some cacao, giving myself a break from caffeine. Just wanted to have a chill morning. Had a significant amount of edibles last night. I don't know how much, let me see. I'd say probably approximately 20 milligrams, give or take. So it probably could have been as low as 17 milligrams or so, probably as high as 21 milligrams, somewhere in between there, of indica protabs, and then some extra vaping. I guess I kind of made my own kind of hybrid, because I have a sativa cartridge and an indica concentrate cartridge. For anyone interested, it's a gelato brand sativa. The strain is called Fruity Cereal, and a Raw Garden brand indica strain called I don't remember what it's called. I think it's one of the melon or mojito. I can't remember what the strain is called. It's got two names, or two words. I want to say it's like mojito melon or something like that. I don't know if they really... Let me look. I have the box. Honeydew mojito. I was in the ballpark. So that's how I ended my evening. And then got really stoned and had some hardcore munchies, and had some Doritos and Chips Ahoy. So that wasn't healthy, but it's what I wanted. And that'll be my snacks for this whole time period for the weekend. I don't know. What's that noise? There's always fucking people over here trying to do something. Sound like people in my space. Alright, somebody was scrubbing the wall. Or the door or something. I don't know what the heck. I don't even know what I was saying. So yeah, the cannabis, the cacao. Yeah. So that's kind of how I'm coming into this morning. Watched one game. Another game's playing right now. And, I was, this morning I felt pretty groggy. I was kind of like really groggy, obviously, because I snacked pretty heavily and then woke up. I think it was just before 6:45 a.m. when I looked at my actual clock, and that's when I started getting ready to watch soccer. And it was somewhere during that game that I remember that I had a dream. Like, I didn't even like remember. So I don't know the start of the dream, but I mean, I just can't remember. There was a lot happening before, but the part that I do remember is it was in my neighborhood. Somehow I linked up with a friend who has a sibling who's, linked up with a trans friend, and we were going from that friend's house to the trans friend's house, and I was kind of thinking, like, in the dream I was like, okay, like, is this okay to like go to their house, like, is that gonna be all right, like maybe I should message them first because it's a little maybe I'm maybe too just like dropping in, like, what if they're busy, what if they're doing something else. And so all that I really remember is that the space was almost like everything was maybe kind of situated where it was the last time I went over there, and this is like probably like over 15 years ago now that I've actually been in the actual house. And but there were no walls. It was all open, like an open floor plan, and extended out past where they would have actually had a wall in their bedroom. That kind of looked like an open New York style kind of dance studio. And so or even those like New York style apartments that are like a loft, how it's like just like a very open floor plan but large size, no real walls or anything. But the other part of their house looked pretty much like everything was where it would have originally been. Just the walls weren't there, so the bedroom wasn't there. They had family and stuff, and like everything was kind of in the same spot as far as like where the kitchen would be, where the family's different rooms would have been. And I believe the hallway looked the same, like, to the actual building, and the parking for the building looked the same. And we get there, and, I was like, oh man, I hope I'm not, like, intruding, because, I didn't want to, like, I would never just show up to somebody's house, but it was like, well, I'm hanging out with this other friend of mine that's, like, related to the trans friend, and so I was like, well, I have permission to come over because I'm with somebody who is part of the family who owns this property. But yeah, it was that was the only thing I was kind of like worried. I was like, should I text and say that I'm on my way over or what? Like, I was a little hesitant, feeling like I was a little barging in, and I was feeling a little cautious about that, just kind of like showing up unannounced. And so they basically had the TV in the living room. It was kind of like an old style TV, like those box TVs from like the from like the 70s or something, the ones that kind of like pretty much sit on the ground, without like a TV stand or anything. And it might have had like some legs on it, like short legs, or like a small something separating it from the floor, but I think it was kind of like on the floor or on something really low to the ground. And you know, they had that on. The couch was pretty low, and then, you know, they were kind of like on the couch. They had some jeans kind of somewhere near the couch and the TV, and then were eating and had some, like, they weren't like sitting on the couch, they were kind of like chilling on the floor by the coffee table, eating, watching TV, like when we walked in this dream. And then so they were kind of chilling, and we walked in, but I was like just assessing, you know, like how they seemed, and they seemed pretty chill. They were like not like stressed, or not like, you know, embarrassed about random people just like showing up or whatever. They were just kind of like, oh hey, you know, and like just like greeted us and started like putting on their clothes. And I was kind of looking around because I was like, wow, this place is so different. And they you know, they were getting ready, but like I said, there were no doors, so they were just kind of getting ready while we were just kind of like awkwardly like in there. And we didn't really settle in because I guess we were gonna get ready to like go somewhere, but I was kind of like just like there, you know, and just like looking around and stuff. And just because it looked so different without the walls, and then there's kind of like another layer to it that I probably won't explain, but because it has something to do with reality, but it's like, yeah, like it's kind of like, I don't know, it just kind of has maybe a lot to do with like death, but not like in a, you know, like in like a suicide way or anything, but just like that was kind of like the theme of the dream, almost like in the back of my mind. That's kind of what I knew was going on. It was like a scenario related to death, and then we just kind of like, but there was more lighting in the house, because it was like open windows and that extended like open floor plan into that whole like dance studio looking area. But it was very like Japanese style almost, furnishing, kind of similar to some of my Japanese friends, how their, you know, apartments looked, but this person isn't like Japanese, but just because of the neighborhood and the culture that, you know, it took place in, there's a lot of maybe like Japanese cultural stuff around, and people do tend to have like a bit of a Japanese style, who were kind of raised around the area, just because it's such an influence on that part of the area in LA. Yeah, so that was kind of what the dream was. Like, there was more to it, but that's all I can really remember. And then there's just kind of the other death theme that I'm probably not going to explain. But that was it for the dream. And there wasn't really I don't think there was really that much more to it. That was kind of all there really was to it. But yeah, like, yeah, I do think ever since I've kind of, like, switched with edibles and, stopped having them so regularly, definitely my dreaming has decreased significantly, which is pretty nuts. Like, it's pretty nuts, because, like, even when I started recording the little tidbits of, like, the my queer dreams, like, I was having a lot of dreams, like, so I was like, oh, this would just be easy to put into a series, because, like, every day I'm having all these, like, gay ass dreams. But yeah, like I do dream often, though. I mean, I had maybe like 2 other days this past week that had dreams. I do dream quite often, but yeah, I don't know if that's all I have to say, but that's kind of all I have to say about the dream. I think I'm gonna keep I still have some recordings I need to do, but I don't know yet. Yeah, I'm just kind of gonna be waiting to make my next recording. Yeah, I'm like enjoying myself as far as today. I know my energy seems low, but I did vape a little bit this morning. It wasn't a lot, but it was a little bit. But with the cacao, that combination kind of mellows me out like a lot. And yeah, I think I need to find, or want to find, a CBD supplement that I like, that's consistent, that works, and is effective every time, like, consistently. Like, I don't mind THC products, but it's like, yeah, unless I'm having a night like last night, when it's like I know I have PTO the next day, I don't really want to be like that stoned. Like, I got purposely very stoned. I couldn't really feel the 13 milligrams, so I added about another 5. I was gonna add the other half, because each of the tablets is like 26, a little over 26 milligrams. So I was like, I don't want to take that much. Usually 5 is plenty. Like, I can feel like 2-3 milligrams. 5 is usually where I max out. Usually 7 is like, okay, like, if I'm just like, whatever. 10 is very rare for me to take 10. And so last night when I took 13, I was expecting all kinds of things. But 2.5 hours later, I wasn't feeling that different. But I put on some chill step, started playing some Magic the Gathering, and chill step, Magic the Gathering, and I definitely was feeling it. I was trying to like read the cards. I didn't understand like what was going on. It was very difficult for me to understand the game. I like the Kamigawa set. It's totally up my alley. I don't know if I want to talk about it. I don't know. I geek out on that game. I wish that more people played it, honestly. But I just play mostly just to keep up my skills. 'Cause it's like when you stop playing, you forget how to play, and then the rules change. Like, not change, but like they add different like abilities. Every series has like new abilities, or sometimes you come across abilities that you don't really know what it means depending on the deck. So Kamigawa series has a lot of interesting types of cards that have like front and back, options of like slow burn. Like, it's a very slow burn kind of just taking little jabs and little bites here and there out of the other player. But the cards are really good, but it's like you really have to have a lot of mana. And so yeah, I'll either play on my phone or on my laptop, or I basically have physical cards that I kind of like play like both hands like against each other, and it's I don't even mind, like it's kind of not even the same as playing like chess against yourself. And I'll play online like that too, like in Arena you can kind of like, I don't know, like I have a method. There's methods where you can play online, and so it's fun, but it's like it's a little involved. But I don't know. So far, Kamigawa is it's not the newest, but it came out during the Rona, and it's one of my favorite series in a while. But that's kind of where I go into, and I told myself, man, so I need to actually I need to solder this freaking jack back onto my motherboard. I really don't want to do it. I'm so lazy. I don't really like I really just don't like dealing with working on computers. Like, it's a little tedious. But I think everything's available. I just need to plug in the soldering iron and go to town. I have all the parts and everything. I don't know how to test the motherboard that I purchased that was supposed to work. So I'm gonna take another jab at it today. I don't know if it's gonna be today. I should just get it out of the way and do it today. Like, I don't know when though. I gotta do my yoga today. That's another reason. Like, basically I took today off so I can like watch soccer, do yoga. I was gonna go hiking, but I'll see. I might make it to the beach for like sunset. I don't know yet though. It's like a maybe. I want to, but I don't want to. I don't know. Sometimes I just don't want to be around people, and I'm kind of getting into that mode today. Like, I know I don't go back to work till Tuesday, so I'm feeling kind of like I just want to just be alone for like multiple days. But I might proposition a couple friends to see if they might want to go out on like Saturday. I just submitted my timesheet, so that means I get paid this coming Thursday. The money should drop in my account, and that money is gonna last me until New Year's Eve, or the day before New Year's Eve, and I have to travel to San Diego on that same paycheck. So that's gonna be a little tight. Because I was also gonna try to go to the mountains next weekend too. So I'm gonna see. I've got to see. I don't really wanna be messing with debt or anything, but I don't know. I'm thinking I'm just gonna have to either brave the weekend, prices and lines snowboarding, or go night boarding, or go up like a Thursday night, stay a Friday, or go up like Sunday or like a Saturday night, which would be terrible for driving, but go up a Saturday night and stay Sunday, leave Monday, because then I'd have Monday to snowboard, and then that following Monday, going down to San Diego. So I don't even know. Like I don't know. I'm gonna have to figure it out. It's hard to like judge the price ranges too far in advance. So I gotta see, and I gotta check what these storms are doing. But yeah, that's kind of what I was up to for this PTO, and then next PTO I'm gonna go up. So I kind of wish that following weekend wasn't gonna be Christmas. I mean, I know that's not like a popular opinion to say, but I don't really like Christmas enough to really want it to be Christmas when I want to do something else. Because yeah, it's gonna be Christmas, and yeah, I want to do something else. So oh well. I'm looking at the calendar. It's kind of crazy. So September and December had the same structure of days. So did February and March. Like all the days of the week fell on the same numbered date. So that's kind of interesting to see. And then the same thing with April and July. So I don't think that has any significance to anything. Oh, and November and February. So February, March, November. I don't know. I just kind of like looking at things like that, though. I think I'm a little stoned. You can probably tell. But yeah, that's a lengthier morning kind of good morning, and it's not really a tea time. It's more of I had some cacao and some cannabis on this PTO morning, and yeah, I'll probably play some more Magic the Gathering tonight. It's a pretty chill game. I don't like losing, but it's fun. It's a fun game. I wish my Wi-Fi didn't suck so bad. Like, cause there's a lot that I've talked about this. I don't really like being in certain parts of the house because it's like they're not as cozy. Like the side of the house I stay on is kind of like the chill, cozy side of the house. You get a lot of direct sunlight in the daytime, and it's just like bright and sunny. Then the other part of the house is like colder, and it's not a lot of direct sun. The Wi-Fi is better, but there's more kind of like traffic of people. My folks are kind of in there a lot, and like families in there just like walking around, talking on the phone, talking to me, going on the computer in the same room. And you know how people kind of like mutter under their breath, and they're just like not like kind of like a form of like talking to themselves, like, And it's just kind of like, I just like complete silence. I like to be in a room by myself in complete silence and just in my own thoughts, because I'm so easily distracted, and just, I like to just deeply focus on what I'm doing. I mean, that, it actually, I don't know, I get a lot of anxiety, not anxiety, oh, it's a little bit of anxiety from having to like pay attention to too many things, because it's hard for me to tune it out. Like, if I'm in a room and there's somebody cleaning on the other side, and then they're like listening to like whatever they're listening to on a Bluetooth speaker, and like kind of like talking under their breath about, just talking to themselves about stuff, that's like 3 things or even 4 things if they're moving around a lot that I have to like focus on while I'm trying to focus on something else. And it's really hard for me to tune it out. And same if I'm cooking, if somebody starts talking to me, it's like I was enjoying this moment of just relaxing and cooking and thinking about the food I'm gonna make, and then somebody comes in and starts just like yammering on. So those kind of things can be a little like just because it's unnecessary. Like, for me, it's like I don't know, like unnecessary interactions. Like, I like it when it's like, okay, I want to interact and I feel like interacting, so let me go interact, versus like somebody just like disrupting my peace and focus with, interjecting just random information about stuff that I just, first of all, I usually don't care. Second of all, it has nothing to do with anything I would ever think about caring about. And then third, it's just like, okay, like I'm in the middle of something else. Like, I don't want to talk about that, like, I don't know. Like, it's just not relevant to me a lot of the time. And it's like, usually, it's while I'm during work too. So it's like I'm between things. I'm between tasks at work, just trying to pop out and like make a little meal or go do something really quick. And then somebody's like talking to me about like God only knows what. So it can be a little, I mean, there are better things on earth to complain about. Honestly, it's not really that big of a deal, but it's kind of like, just that kind of keeps me a little isolated to one side of the house, because it's like I know I'm less likely to run into anybody. I know nobody really hangs out over here. But I really just love having my own space. Like, I just don't like to share space unless I'm in the mood to. And I'm rarely in the mood to. Rarely. I mean, it would be cool if I could have like friends over. Like, I can't have friends over. Like, I don't know. I'm just, I don't know. I have a little bit of a, not even in a bad way, but it's like a little bit of a hard time relating to my folks. Like, we're not that open about what we actually do in our lives, other than just like my day to day. Like, oh, this client's driving me nuts, or like, my parents talking about who might visit during the holidays, or like, what kind of stuff they're purchasing for the garden or whatever, like that kind of stuff. But it's like, I don't know, like, I feel like I've got a lot more depth to my thinking, and I don't really feel like, they're capable or interested in having conversations about deep things unless they want to debate and argue about it, and that's just not my style. Like, I'm not arguing, and I don't know, it's hard for me to like want to hear other people's perspectives when they just want to like refute things. It's kind of like, that's not why I brought it up, like, I didn't bring it up because I am saying you're wrong. I'm just throwing an idea out there, like, hey, I watched this video about this lady who said that she had some alien encounter, like, it's like, this has, like, I don't have a dog in this fight, like, none of us really should, but something like that can easily just turn into just some kind of weird conversation that's just um, not really how I prefer to just like interact with people. Like, I feel like it's more stressful than not. So that's another reason why I just kind of like lay low and just kind of keep to myself. It's like, I don't know, like, it's just, I don't know, like, I like geeking out about things and just like having topics that are kind of, that have some depth to them, or, you know, doing things that have like some form of strategy involved or learning involved. And then I feel like, you know, I mean, I know a lot of people who are really like artistic and everything, but I don't really know a lot of people who, like, I don't know, like, I relate really well to my siblings. I'm trying to figure out the parents part. Like, I don't really think it's that they're not capable. I just think it's like there's a lot of conversations that none of us really wants to open. So we keep it pretty surfacey because that's easy and safe. But, you know, there's also not a lot of fun in the conversations. It's kind of like I'm venting about, this is something that I'm trying to do, like some kind of barrier from some form, like something at work when the technology doesn't work, or like, you know, or my folks go to buy something and they're all out of whatever type of bricks or whatever the heck, you know, that they were looking for, and had to drive across town to go get some other thing for the yard, and like that kind of thing. It's like a lot of the day-to-day kind of like little stressors that come up, we kind of talk about that, but we don't really like test ideas about things, or like talk about like anything like that. And when we do, it's coming from I feel like it almost comes from like I don't want to call it like a victim perspective, but like, I can't remember what, I think the other day I was either talking to my parents or like watching something, and there was a theme that came up about like, you know, when extended family members visit and, you know, they overstay their welcome, and then people just kind of, you know, don't want to kick them out, but it's like, you know, everybody's struggling financially, so they just kind of leave them be, and then they might get bored as visitors visiting for like multiple months. And then that led into like, you know, parental units being like, oh, like, when I'm that age, you're not going to be like that with me, are you, kind of thing. And it's kind of like, what the fuck? Like, to me, I'm just like, I just don't even answer. I'm just like, leave me alone. Like, how am I supposed to know how I'm going to treat you when, you know, you're old? And when I'm older, like, I can't predict that. Like, as things are now, I'm not holding a grudge. Like, as things are at this moment, I'm not holding a grudge about things to a point where I'd be like neglectful. But at the same time, it's like, you know, like, relationships continue. I mean, like, I'm not just gonna like just be like, okay, if somebody decides that they want to become some toxic force in my life within the next like couple years or something, and then we're waiting till they turn like 90. I mean, I would never be like abusive and neglectful towards like elderly family or anybody like that, but also, you know, I don't really see myself, you know, trying to work hard to expose myself to toxic people. So I just feel like as long as things are civil and the relationship is good, like, why would I have any reason to, you know, act like a jerk. But things can change, people can change, I might not be capable, I don't know what my financial situation is going to be when I'm like, like in my 70s and I have older family members that are in their 90s. Like, I don't know how I'm going to be, what I'm going to be like. I might be completely fine with it, with interacting with them. I might not be. So, I don't really know. I just don't really know. Like, I think dynamics are really difficult between, like, parents, elders, and adult children, and especially from cultures where people are just really traditional and reserved about things. And then if you're like a younger generation and you're not very reserved about things, it kind of becomes more of a burden than not to be around people who just don't practice open-mindedness and don't just kind of practice, like, just go with the flow. It's like the things that bother them don't bother me, and the things that bother me don't bother them. So for example, they are really into relationships being really traditional. So even as far as like ethnicities and cultural stuff, like they have their preferences of like race and ethnicity and cultural backgrounds of people that they would prefer their children to date, even though in all realistic reality there's no way that we have a large pool to choose from, and at least one of us over here on the gender end of things isn't very likely to get involved with the preferred gender the preferred gender of like of the tradition and culture with like relationships. And so it's like I don't know, just like weird expectations. Like, to me it's like there's always these like weird expectations, and you don't really see them in like mainstream society because a lot of people don't really talk about it. But it's like when you do have family that's like that, it's kind of like everything that's different from what they expect to happen is it causes some reason to kind of be stressed about it and to have concerns about it. And these concerns are like, okay, on my end, I prefer to talk about what are these underlying concerns. Like, why does it matter to you if I'm with somebody who's the same gender or a non-cisgender person? Why would that matter to anybody else? Why? Like, how does it directly affect them? Like, they're not financially responsible. They don't have to be emotionally involved with this person. They're not cooking them meals. They're not cleaning up after them. They're not living in the same house with them. They're not shuttling them around town. They're not providing transportation or any type of resources whatsoever. And so to me, I'm like, how does it affect your life directly? It doesn't directly affect it. I mean, in your mind, it affects it if you think that, somebody's salvation and future, well-being, or their place in heaven, or they've now secured themselves a place in hell, or whatever the belief is like, do you really believe that? Do you really believe that, because it seems a little weird to be worried about, if somebody's going to go to hell. Like, that's not something that you spend a lot of time thinking about, if I'm with my folks and they're in the car and they're the ones driving and they run a light, I'm not going to be like, oh, you broke a law. Oh my gosh, I'm so worried about, you might be closer to going to hell. Like, I mean, like, certain things that are just like, okay, like, you broke some kind of social rule or some kind of legal rule or whatever. I mean, I've had family members that have gone to jail. Nobody's worried about their salvation. Like, I'm not even trying to, like, say that there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying, like, the weirdness that people, of ways that people worry about certain stuff from a traditional perspective sometimes, it's like, yeah, so if I'm not dating someone of say, like, a certain ethnicity, African ethnicity, first of all, in the area where I live, all the areas I've ever lived have never had a large population of African people or black people at all. Like, not a large population. I've always been one of the few. In all the schools I've been to, I've been one of the few. In all the work environments I've worked in, I've been one of the few. In the neighborhood related things, one of the few. In church, within churches and stuff, one of the few. Other than when I grew up, and started going to this other church when I was already, like, in college, that happened to have a lot of black people and Tongan people. That was the only one where I was actually around a lot of black people. The music was kind of black cultural church music, kind of gospel, contemporary gospel kind of music. And, if I was going to try to choose somebody to be with, that ideally would have been the place, because of the same religion and the same, type of ethnic backgrounds. Like, it doesn't even mean that, like, you have anything in common, I have a lot more in common with a lot of different types of people. Now, I will say that there is something appealing to me about people who grew up in the same religion, even if they're not that religion anymore. I definitely gravitate towards definitely queer people who are from the same religion that I was, raised in. Racially, that doesn't really matter, but I think there's definitely a heavy cultural influence on people who were raised in that certain religion and in LA, because you're kind of like in, like, multiple worlds. It's like you've got this queer world, you've got this religious world, and you've got this secular world, and you just have to make it all work. And I think all the people I know, who are, of those three backgrounds, from the same area of LA, from the same religion, and from, a queer background, like, I think having those three things, like, I almost instantly gravitate towards people, just because they totally get it. Like, there's a lot that you just don't have to explain, like, they know it. And I think the reason why, too, is because with the religion, you're so, like, I don't want to say brainwashed, but you're so heavily indoctrinated with that religion that, like, you kind of grew up with a lot of the same messages culturally, with a lot of the same experiences, having to kind of navigate, different parts of, LA society while trying to have religious traditions and trying to, make yourself successful and also not get reprimanded by the church, and not get ridiculed by your family members for either breaking the church rules or doing gay stuff or whatever. Like, there's just so many different layers. And so anybody that I've met, that is from the same religion, that lives in LA and in the same area, like, we definitely tend to get along almost instantaneously. And that to me is probably more likely of a comfort zone than just looking at like ethnicity and religion alone. Because I don't know if I would really date someone who's actively practicing unless they maybe were part of a church that was affirming, or like a non-prejudice congregation, because there are quite a few of those within the religion that are in LA. So if they were kind of more connected with like that, then I would probably understand it a little bit better. But it would be kind of hard to be dating somebody who's connected to a church that hates who you are. And so that I can't really see happening. But, yeah, I think, it's just a little bit of a complex type of a situation that maybe not everybody has to deal with. Like, I do often meet queer people who are from like Jehovah's Witnesses or like Mormons. Like, I think they're probably from the stricter types of denominations, stricter than the one I grew up in. And we kind of all have a little bit in common, but I feel like the people that are from the same denomination I'm from, they definitely, like, we all kind of get each other on a certain level, and we can talk about it like very well, and there's no like having to explain. I mean, a lot of us know the same people, or of the same people. Like, there's just a lot in common, even if you were like technically not involved for your whole life, and then you met later in life. But yeah, it's just definitely something to consider. And yeah, like, I would say like, when it comes to my family, that's kind of something that they don't really fully wrap their heads around. I mean, I think I've mentioned before that, I have a straight sister who's dating a cis Caucasian male. And, I didn't think twice about, it being any kind of an issue. And they've been dating for like maybe 4 years now. They've got a place together, and they've had a place together for multiple years. But now they've got their own spot that's not shared, that they've had for a while now. And I mean, they live together. Like, I don't see anything weird with it. Like, that's normal. But my folks don't like it, and they still complain about how they found out that my sister was dating someone that she maybe didn't like just come right out and say it. And I'm just like, well, you guys complain either way. Like, you're gonna complain if she says it, that she's dating someone. You're gonna complain, if she invites someone over. You're gonna complain about the ethnicity. You're gonna complain about the age and the religious background. It's like, why would somebody want to go out of their way to tell you, and they still complain about it, and then nothing is even wrong. So, like, the other day, like, they were kind of, we were kind of like talking about like past holidays, people visiting and stuff, and they were kind of talking again about how it was when they found out that my sister was dating somebody. And I'm just like, I just said, like, it's really not that big of a deal, and I don't know if they thought that, but I was just kind of like, that was my response. Like, I'm like, I don't understand how over 4 years, maybe 4 years later, it's still a problem, like, what do you expect them to do? They've been dating for such a long time. Like, what are you expecting them to do, what are you expecting them to say? Like, I don't really see any real problem here. Like, I don't really see what the problem is here. But yeah, that's just kind of my opinion of things, that it's just kind of hard to relate. Like, I can take it or leave it as far as trying to have like more depth to conversations. Like, I know it's not gonna happen anytime soon. It's kind of like, I don't want to say too much damage has been done, but it's kind of like we don't know each other well enough to really have conversations about things. Like, I kind of just listen to the things that they say, and my folks are very into complaining, and the theme that I get is that if it's outside of their own culture and tradition, then it's something that they have a hard time wrapping their head around and don't really challenge it much. It could be anything, like how if my parents decided to give one of my friends money and that friend didn't say thank you, or if because that's a very traditional thing. It's like, you say thank you. We were always taught to say thank you, if somebody gives you something. And we were taught to do that. And my parents would say, like, if we give you something and you don't say thank you, we can take it back. It's like, you have to be grateful and show that you are, kind of thing. And so if they give people things, they automatically assume that somebody's going to thank them. And in other people's culture, sometimes it's like, okay, like, that's not really like a thing, or like, it's not like an expectation, and nobody would assume that it's like yeah, it's common courtesy, but it's not an expectation that people kind of know about. And it's just a cultural difference, so that's an easy example that experienced, my family being unhappy about the process of giving people something that didn't seem grateful, or having somebody be what they would consider some version of disrespectful. Like, if I've had cousins come over, or even, like I said, my sister, if there's people of opposite gender sleeping in the same bed or on the same couch or whatever, that's not okay. They don't like having guys in the house if there's no other guys from the family. So if my dad or brother aren't home, for me to have like my male friends over, or for me to, even if my mom is home, if it's me and my mom, having one of my male friends come over to even like watch soccer or a movie, or sleeping over or whatever, because we're gonna go snowboard in the morning or whatever it may be, there's gonna be an issue there. And so, even me having my friends that are so young, so much younger than my mom, and like being at the house with just my friend and my mom and me, that's not okay either. And so it's like there's so many rules that like don't really need to be there, that for me in my life, these aren't necessities. These rules aren't necessities to me. I don't think anybody's gonna be having any weird kind of rumor that they saw some guy over at the house or whatever. And even if they do, it's like, okay, it's my friend, so what difference does it make if I have my friend over? And even now, it's like, if I had my friends over and we were just like hanging out in my room, I'm pretty sure, my folks would not be super okay with that, with the doors closed or whatever. Even if we're just like watching movies or whatever, like, it's just absurd. To me, it's just absurd, and it's obnoxious. It's just like, I don't know, why there's so much like concern about things. Like I've never like fully really liked hanging out at my house anyways, but it's like, it can be comfortable, cozy, cheaper. It's just nice to just sometimes, on occasion, have people over and just chill in your own space and not have to like leave or pay to go do anything else. And like, that's nice, and it's like, if this were my place, I would have had people over a lot by now, but I can't, because it's not my place. Like, I can't have people over like at all. And so it's really kind of just socially like a little like weird. Like, I can have people over, but it's kind of like more of a challenge than it's worth. Like, for example, for Thanksgiving, I wanted to invite a couple friends over for dinner or lunch or whatever we were having, and I couldn't have them over because I knew it was going to be, COVID, this and that, that there was going to be something coming up, some kind of complaint about it, and it's kind of like, whatever. Like, I'm not, I don't really like maybe like having people over, because we can't just like talk about whatever, we can't just have open conversations like we normally have anyways, because my folks are like, they would probably not be happy with the types of movie choices or whatever, or if people are using like cursing language, or if people are drinking or smoking, or anybody doing anything. Honestly, they just aren't very open-minded to it. So it's kind of like, And I'm just kind of thinking about that today. I'm like, yeah, I can't really have people over easily unless maybe it's people I grew up with from church. Like, I might be able to have them over just because they know them already. But also, I don't really want to. So, yeah, the people that I want to have over are, not people that they would probably be too comfortable with. And because they don't really go to church on Saturdays anymore, like they used to go every single Saturday. So since they haven't been doing that too often, it's hard for me to just kind of have people over. Because I used to just do it while they were at church. I'd be like, well, I'll just have people over from like 9 to 1 or 9 to 2 or something like that. And then by the time they got home, it's like, okay, like we can just leave. But, yeah, like there's not even that anymore. So, I mean, it's fine. Like, it's not that big of a deal. I'm here to save money. I'm not really here to, throw parties and stuff. But it's kind of like, I just think about all that kind of stuff. Social life wise, my parents are great, but also it's like socializing wise, they're not really my cup of tea socially. Like, they're kind of more like I don't really like it when people kind of expect too much. Like, I think I expect a lot of them too. I expect them to be more open-minded than they are, and they expect us as their kids to be more traditional than we are. And so it's kind of like it goes both ways. Like, I would say that I don't know, me and my siblings are all kind of like, we're kind of like a mix of like, we know the rules, we know the social rules, we know how to do, that and play the game. But we also are very, like, we don't make trouble. We're not like doing anything, wrong to the point where it's like going to be problematic for anybody. So I don't really see at the end of the day like what the issues really would be. As long as people are happy and trying to like be healthy, I don't really see any real problem. But I think, sometimes people expect there to be, just, living by some other set of rules, even if those rules don't directly apply to everybody. Like, I have different rules, I think, on how to treat people than my folks do. Like, I know they're religious, but also I have different rules on different social rules on what I would say is the right way. To me, that's something that matters more than what the religion itself teaches about other stuff. And like, traditionally, what you see in the religion, I feel like a lot of times the religion misses the mark because they're not strict enough on the actual social interactions of people. Like, it's more like, okay, what's being seen on the surface and what's being portrayed, and do you look like you're following the rules? There's not a lot of like personal accountability, honesty, self-reflection, just kind of humbling and like apologies and things like that. There's a lot of just like, people trying to, puff themselves up to look like they're perfect and pointing out a lot of things that other people might struggle with, but not really trying to actively help them or not really trying to protect them from other people who are gossiping about them or whatever. Like, to me, that is wrong. But, other people would say, well, it's wrong, to not point it out maybe, or it's wrong, for those people to be doing those things. So why can't we point it out, kind of thing? And I'm just kind of like, dude, it's wrong to like be on people's case about stuff. So even when it comes to like LGBT stuff, I feel like it's not right for church people, even if they don't believe that it's okay, I don't think it's right for them to really be protesting against people or making things harder for them if they do believe it's wrong. Like, I'm just saying, like, some people don't believe that there's anything wrong, and then there's other people who believe that there's something wrong. And I believe that, with churches, if they believe that something is wrong with another person in a social way, that they shouldn't push back against that person unless that person is actively doing harm towards others or themselves. So unless they're, suicidal or planning to hurt somebody physically or emotionally or steal from them or whatever it may be, like, unless it's some scenario like that, I don't really think that the church needs to come down on people for things, especially because they don't do it evenly. So say, for example, in some churches, being an LGBT person would be considered not a good thing, right? To think about any gay-related topics or to have any actions, right, would be considered not okay according to that faith. And also, you could say that they would say, following the laws. I'm going to reuse examples. Following the laws of the land is an important thing. So you're not supposed to be, driving recklessly or committing crimes, but, driving recklessly is a type of crime, even though it's not like, even though nothing might go wrong, you're still risking things and breaking the rules. And then other types of crimes that could land you in jail, even if you're not really doing anything like super terrible. But so something like that. And then let's say somebody who's, using alcohol and, becomes addicted to alcohol. So you could take all those three things that a church might very likely say are things that you shouldn't do, but you will rarely or never hear anybody preach about jaywalking or speeding or running a red light, or purchasing or selling cannabis, marijuana products in a state where it's not legal, or going out and getting blackout drunk and waking up hungover. You'll rarely hear any kind of sermon preached about any of that stuff. But you will very likely hear sermons preached against LGBT people. And so that just goes to show, it's like, people want to say it's not a prejudice, but it's like, but yeah, I would consider that to be a form of prejudice, even though people don't notice that that's what they're doing. I think they think somehow that arguing about it with somebody is gonna make them become religious and stop doing the things that they're doing, even though I'm just very curious as to why people in religion really need people to stop doing what they're doing, especially when they're not directly affected by it. Like, I don't really see unless somebody has to like spend their own resources or their own energy, I don't really see why it's such a big deal for, a lot of religious types of people, if someone in their family is LGBT. I mean, I think the real issue that they have is that, maybe their congregation is going to find out, or other family members might think something different, or they might feel themselves like they're going to get judged. That's what I think the real reason is. And that's why I think they come down hard on people. I don't think that it's coming from a place really of somebody being so concerned about somebody's salvation. I mean, I do think that a lot of what is taught about, heaven and hell related types of topics is kind of another form of manipulation, and gives people a bit of an excuse to be able to kind of criticize or try to judge people. Because if I think I'm helping somebody to not go to hell, then I can speak my mind to that person about what I am judging them on, of what they're doing that I think is wrong. But I mean, they don't treat it the same, as, say if somebody was across the street from church, like the church building, and they parked across the street every single week before the service and jaywalked across the street illegally, across the street every single week. Nobody would confront them about that. But if a person brought their significant other to church and it was a gay relationship, somebody might say something. Maybe not, but it's very possible. It's very likely somebody would say something to the gay couple, more likely than they would say anything about the jaywalking person. Just like if somebody had a couple drinks before church, if they were suffering from alcoholism and decided, hey, I'm just going to drive here and go to the bar across the street and have some drinks and get a little sloshed and come into church, even if they didn't smell like alcohol, even if they weren't disruptive, but just the fact that people see them 5 minutes before the service every week walking out from the bar, paying their tab, as they sit on the patio outside at the bar and, quickly pound a couple beers from a can. So it's like you're obviously drinking right there, right before church, and then walking right into the service. I mean, I don't even think there's anything wrong with that, but it's still kind of like traditionally, right? Who does that? Like traditionally, you're usually not like going out for drinks by yourself before church. And especially in this type of really conservative religion. And so nobody would probably say too much to that person either. And so but yeah, I do think that people use like heaven and hell as like an excuse to be able to kind of tell somebody that they think that they might be going to hell. If that's kind of like a reason that people can give to open judgment to make people feel bad. But I think usually it's like maybe jealousy that they're not able to freely live their lives without the chains of the religion on them. Like, I think there's some of that too. Like, they see people doing whatever and living freely and not worrying about the church's eyes, and that to them is concerning because they're like, well, we can't have this. We can't have people doing whatever they want to do. and finding happiness outside of the church, and or still coming to church while they're doing these things, we're going to make you uncomfortable if you're still coming here and you're doing all this other stuff. But like, even stuff like that is like, I think it's wrong for people to act like that towards each other. Like, I think it's, I think people also don't teach in the church that it's wrong. So people have experienced others treating people that way. A lot of us grew up witnessing, how our parents or other people in the church would treat others, and then, kind of growing up with a similar kind of mentality or a similar method of like behaving socially. And so when I think about my folks, I mean, they're not really on that level of like that much intensity of like they're not going to be like picketing or anything, but behind closed doors in the house, when they think, okay, we're amongst our own kind, we can say whatever we want. Just sometimes the stuff that I hear is not really kind of the way that I think is really a socially okay way to think about people or interact with them. But they would say otherwise because they're covered by their religion. Now, they're not like ultra prejudiced people. Like, they're not like, I mean, I've seen worse for sure. Like, I've got plenty of friends that are gay, that they know are gay, that they're completely sweet and kind to my friends. I've never witnessed them really being like mean to my friends or anything like that. But there's a lot that they don't understand. And earlier on in life, it was more of a conversation of, oh, they're too young to know, like, you guys don't know, you're all still too young. And this was like, I think maybe, I'm just thinking of this now, but maybe that was how people back then used to say things, because their experience when they grew up, I mean, they didn't have internet, they didn't have like anything, other than the people around them. And with being, growing up in like smaller areas, not in a major city like LA, they weren't really exposed to a lot of stuff. So I think it's more possible that in their day and age, if they compared our lives as teens and like people in their 20s and 30s saying, oh, you're too young, it's like, well, maybe if it was back in your era, we would have maybe not had enough exposure and like experience to like explore different things because of our environment. So maybe in their minds, that's why they say, oh, you're too young. Maybe that's one reason why. You're too young, you don't know, you're just confused, that kind of conversation. But it's kind of interesting how that dialogue still does come up, even though I'm older now. It's kind of like, oh, when am I going to be old enough to actually know? You know what I mean? It's like, okay, you can be like in your mid-30s, late 30s, early 40s, and you're still too young. I mean, it's kind of like, really? Like, you guys had kids in your mid and late 20s. Does that mean that you didn't really know what you were doing? I mean, I'm pretty sure you knew what you were doing. So it's kind of like a little, like, I think maybe people place their confusion on others too. Like, they're confused, so they're like, oh, you're confused. It's like, no, I'm not confused. You are confused. You're confused about the situation that you're hearing because you don't understand it. and you might not go out of your way to try to understand it, and so you're going to continue to be confused, and so you're going to keep saying, I'm confused, when I'm not confused, you know. But more so that, just kind of like the complete just inability or unwillingness to really like see past the religious scope, see outside of it, challenge anything within the religion, challenge anything, even like the social ways that people interact, and seeing them and being like, oh, like, I couldn't call that out because it's the pastor. It's like, dude, it doesn't matter if it's the pastor. You can call out the pastor. Like, you probably shouldn't do it like on the stage in front of like every single person, but like you can take them aside or email them or call them during the week about some kind of concern, or visit their office or something. Like, you don't have to say, you know, that like some people you can confront, other people you can't. Like, there's an appropriate way to do it. There's appropriate, you know, like, I don't know. Like, I just think people don't really think about kind of the other side of things. They just think, okay, there's this religion that I'm a part of and I have to like follow everything to the T. I think people need to start looking more closely at what they do, because I think it is very damaging to relationships to take a lot of that style of interacting and then try to apply it everywhere. Like, sometimes it just doesn't work. Like, it doesn't work in secular society. It doesn't work with certain cultural groups of people. Like, I think religion kind of fails in what do you call it? Cultural sensitivity. I don't know if that's what you call it, but religion in its own way can be very prejudiced. And I don't hate religion. I mean, I love religion. I do. I think it can be very beautiful. I love spirituality. I think it can be very beautiful. I'm very weary of institutions. I think that a lot of times they don't have pure motives, or even if the leaders themselves have pure motives, corporations don't have pure motives. Just because something is a non-profit doesn't mean that the motives are more pure. I think the biggest thing you can tell is how healthy are the people that are interacting with this system. You know, physically, a lot of them tend to be healthy, you know, living about an average of 7 years longer than the average American. But that's on average, and that's only 7 years. But it's something. So something, the discipline aspect, I think, disciplined lifestyle of like having structure and, you know, attending to health. I think that the discipline of it makes it possible for people to kind of like improve. Like, the discipline of it makes it possible for people to show health. But if you talk about mental health, I don't know. When I talk to my friends that grew up in the religion, even the ones who are still in it, many of them, I can't tell you how many of them were suicidal, how many of them have trauma from the religion. Countless amount of people that are still in the religion, and it's not helping with those things. It's actually, you know, contributing to a lot of emotional issues. And they don't really see like a way out. And these people, you know, some of them aren't even LGBT people. And so, you know, they don't really feel or aren't really supported, or or don't really feel accepted in some way because maybe they did something that was seen as a mistake. They don't feel forgiveness. They don't feel, like they're looked at like with a certain status anymore, like a higher status anymore. They feel kind of put down. And so I would say that, the fruit that comes from it all isn't fully, it's not really a system that seems to be working as is, or else the people who were practicing the system would probably be doing better than they are. They wouldn't be having a lot of issues. And I still see people who are having a lot of issues, which shows me that, I'm not saying that people shouldn't have problems. I'm just saying, like, they're not immune, and a lot of the problems that they experience come directly from practicing this religion. And so, if you're having physical problems, physical health problems, if you're having emotional health problems, if you're having financial health problems, and you're still practicing what is supposed to be happening, like what you're supposed to be doing, I mean, you'd think people would question this and be like, hey, this isn't really keeping my life on track. What is it that's not really working for me? Because there must be something that is being done by the people that isn't helpful for them. So that's kind of my lengthy rant that was kind of brought out of me from thinking about the old neighborhood, and just kind of this dream that came up. It's kind of, I mean, even when I wasn't like thinking about it in an underlying religion type of way, I do think it had like some religious themes, because of the part that I'm not going to mention too much about that had to do with death. Like, there was just kind of like a segment of it that was kind of like death / afterlife / religious beliefs with death and afterlife kind of thing, and that kind of thing. So I wonder, I just wonder, I would love to see positive changes. I definitely saw positive changes before I left to San Diego, but then coming back and seeing that some of those two congregations that I thought were just like amazing, the strong leaders of those congregations are elsewhere now and left, and with them left that positive, life-changing environment that I got to experience in Hollywood, and at the church that I said was like Black people and Tongan people. Like the things that were being taught about were just purely like, just challenge your social perspectives, and what the right thing is to do. Live by what is the right thing to do, and not by what a book says, not by what the tradition of the church teaches of how to interact with others. Like, it's not loving a lot of the times, or else people wouldn't have so many stories about unloving experiences. Like, I've never really experienced like firsthand. It's been more just like a secondhand disgust that I kind of developed just from witnessing how people would treat each other and how they still treat each other. Even to the point that now I even question, like, when I'm invited to certain functions, I'm like, I really don't know if it's even healthy for me to go and expose myself to groups of people who are completely nice to me, but they completely just want to bash other people, and they will never do that to me. They've never done that to me. But just being around people who are I mean, everyone has the right to their opinion. Everyone has the right to love or hate who they want, and whatever. But if you really hate somebody that bad, who did wrong? Like, usually it's not like somebody went and slashed their tires or broke out their window or robbed their house or like stole their wallet or anything or vandalized their property or anything. It's like they just broke a church rule. Like, oh, this person, maybe had sex with one of the people that I know and then went and started dating some other person, and it wasn't like a cheating thing. It's just like, okay, they hooked up and maybe that person wanted something more. So now instead of just being like, oh, like honest and being like, hey, I wanted something more out of that, and I'm kind of bummed that they went out and started dating this other person, instead they're going to be like, that person's promiscuous and they're breaking the rules of the church because they'll sleep with anybody. And it's kind of like, well, you will too. I mean, you guys were both sleeping with each other. Like, it goes both ways, right? So it's kind of like things like that, where it's like people will just like do something like that to like out people about all kinds of stuff that's like, well, you were there too. Like, what were you doing about it? What were you doing about their promiscuous lifestyle while you were sleeping together? It's like, I mean, I don't even care. Like, honestly, that kind of stuff to me is like, I don't care who wants to sleep with who. None of this matters to me. But it's like, it'll be stuff like that. It's kind of like at that level of like, oh, well, they're going against the church doing this thing. Like, I know them and witness them going against the church doing this thing while, I don't know. And there's definitely a double standard, but it's like, there's more. I mean, I just feel like it just frustrates me because there's more to this. Like, I feel like people with the kind of traditional, like, ultra religious views don't really see that there's a lot underlying why they judge and who they accept and who they're nice to and who they ridicule. Like, they don't really see that there's something underlying that. They just believe, oh, like, I'm seeing this thing happen in I'm seeing this thing happen and it's against the rules and I don't like it. And instead of just confronting that one person in a place where nobody else is there, they don't even confront the person who's directly doing it. They go tell everybody else. And it's like, well, if you really had a problem, if somebody vandalized my car and I really had a problem with it, why would I go tell everybody else? I would go directly to that person and be like, dude, you owe me money for the repairs for what you did because you weren't supposed to be spray painting my windows purple or whatever. Like, why would I go approach, if I really think somebody did something wrong against me, why would I go approach other people? Right? That to me doesn't make any sense. Like, if somebody wrongs you directly, you approach them directly with almost any situation, right? That's how you're going to approach it. But with the church, it doesn't happen that way. And I think the reason why is because the people aren't being directly impacted. They just now have some dirt where they can drag somebody down. And the more people that are dragged down and pushed towards what's considered the bottom, the higher, more elevated other people look who are following the rules. They're trying to build themselves up because they're like, well, I don't do that. I don't struggle with that thing, that person is dealing with. So I don't do that. So I'm going to go tell everybody that I saw what they were doing. It just doesn't make any sense to me, but I think it needs to stop. I just feel like people don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear that in my opinion, that is what a good religion would look like. Is just people actually being careful with how they treat each other and how they treat themselves. And other than that, there's really no other, you don't really need all the other stuff. Like, you don't really need all the weird little, you know, things about which garments you need to wear with which other ones, and all kinds of outdated sacrificial information and things that nobody does anymore. Like, you don't need all that. Like, all you really need to do is practice how you treat people. Like, that's the only thing I think you need to do in a religion, is to practice how you treat people. That's the only thing. I mean, that's really the only thing I think. And I think that's the hardest thing to do. And it's really easy to focus on other people breaking rules. I mean, who is gonna possibly not break one of those rules? You know, even within a day, we've all pretty much broken like a lot of them. So, you know, give it a week, you've probably broken half. You know, give it longer, you know, there's probably a few that you'll never touch. Like, you know, most of us don't murder, which is great, but the rest of it, you know, we've all done pretty much a lot of the other stuff, and we do it and we move on and we learn to get better to not do it. And it's our own individual journey. I don't think it needs a congregation of accountability. I don't think it needs any kind of other thing. It's just you and your deity and how you interact. I don't think any of the other stuff really needs to be discussed too much, or as much as it is. I think they need to focus more on how people treat others. That's what's going to get people into church. If that's what they want, is having people in church, you got to focus on the stuff that isn't being focused on. Nobody cares about any of that other stuff. All people really want, honestly, is to have, you know, have good days where they feel physically, you know, not in pain, and emotionally not in pain, and to have good social connections, you know, as well as, you know, have money to like eat and do what you want to do. But it's like, other than that, people just want a few things. Like, they don't really need a whole lot of other stuff, you know. I don't think anybody really wants any of that other stuff that the church has to offer. I think the reason why they go into churches is because it's a social environment. You can do religion by yourself. You don't need a congregation and like a whole group inside of a church building every week and all that kind of stuff. If you want to do the religion, there's free Bibles all over the place, and you can just get the Bible and read it and do it by yourself, right? But people want that social, you know, they want that connection with other people, and that's what the religion is providing. But they're not providing a healthy, you know, social connection with people. They're providing sometimes not the healthiest. And so I think that would be a better focus. But that's going to be my lengthy religion rant for now. I think, you know, definitely, you know, full circle when it comes to LGBT people, you know, the church is more concerned about, you know, a couple lines in the Bible that are taken out of context. They're not really focused on, you know, developing relationships with people or helping those people to thrive or anything. They're just like, nope, you need to follow these couple rules here. This is what we're going to focus on now that we know that you're gay. You need to focus on this. And it's like, wait, that's not even why I came here, you know? Like, I have no problem with it. You have a problem with it. So it's kind of like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't even know what to say. It's just tiring. That's why I don't really do it anymore, because it's just tiring. Like, I've spoke my mind about it so many times, and Like, I've had plenty of platforms to speak out on, and speak in person, and I still never got really pushback about it. It was more so just, people don't want to hear it. You can tell people don't want to hear it, and I've said it and people have heard it and they just don't want to hear it, and I'm like, that's all I really have to say. Like, and until that type of thing changes, I don't really see myself being involved with church environments. I'll make exceptions. There are some church related things that I do want to kind of be around, but most of my LA gay friends that are from the same religion, a lot of us talk, and a lot of us aren't really too involved in the religion, because we all kind of have the same mindset. We're like, this is not necessary. Like, why are we even like dealing with this? Like, we have a perfectly fine time when we hang out amongst ourselves, and we don't need all that. Like, we can create a social group that we want that doesn't have that aspect interfering in your mind. Like, nobody needs that in their mind. Like, it doesn't help anything. So I don't know, like, I really think churches could do better. I don't want to say that every person in a church is like that, because my experience honestly has been great. Firsthand experience has been great. Like, I know a lot of great people from church, a whole lot of great people from church. Most of the people in my life that I love the most are from church, because I've known them for so long too. Like, we grew up together. Like, it's fine. But there's also what I've seen that I know happens there, and it's not okay. And not only does it happen in the churches, it translates into the schools that the churches run, and it translates into the households that people live in with people who go to those churches. And so that's kind of more my experience. Is I know what my folks are kind of exposed to, and what they kind of let kind of guide their own social actions, and that we don't really agree on the same level about that, about letting that style of social interaction, like, I don't even want to be around it, honestly. I don't even want to be around it. So that's why I avoid church environments, is because there is exposure to those types of people and those types of environments and those types of messages. Even if somebody's not coming down on me, even if everyone's perfectly polite and kind towards me, that's kind of the atmosphere, and I don't approve. I do not approve. There is very little that I will probably be like, oh, I disagree with this, or I disagree with that. Like, I'm pretty like, okay, I can see both sides. But when it comes to how people are treated, I'm usually going to advocate for treating people well. Like, unless a person is like doing damage to an extent where they need some rights reduced so that they can't keep harming other people, I think everybody should have rights, the same rights, equal rights. That's all that I really believe. And I think the church has a big role in promoting prejudice in society. And that's not good. I met some cool people this week that, came from a religious background, from a Mormon religious background, and we met at a gay bar. Those are the types of people that you're just like, okay, like, I know what's up, it's like, I think it makes people stronger from coming from those types of backgrounds. But also there's an aspect of just like unnecessary drama that just is just not needed. It's like, we don't need this today. But yeah, like sometimes it's like, at the end of the day, what are you gonna do, you know? But I gotta go eat my lunch, and that's gonna be my lengthy rant. I'll see if I post this, but thanks for listening.